a YouTube live weather update, as we do have some active weather moving in for Valentine's Day, as well as into the weekend and next week as a whole. So we're going to be into more active weather pattern than we've been in for quite a while. So like I said, just wanted to come in, get the information out, letting you know what you can expect as we head into Valentine's Day and beyond from there. So if you can give me about, say, 30 seconds to a minute, I'll get everything working here behind the scenes, and we'll make sure everything is running smoothly. The first thing I do want to make sure is, as always, is the audio working, which I'll be able to confirm here pretty quick. And we are running. So, like I said, give me 30 seconds to a minute. I'll get everything working here behind the scenes, but I will show you the wide angle of our satellite loop, and this is our storm coming in right here. There's a big trough out to our west, but in that is a pair of disturbances that are going to bring some more active weather to the region, starting as early as tonight, but more likely as we head into Saturday morning early. Okay. That's working there. All right, looks like we've got everything working like I was hoping it would. So I think we are overall in good shape. I just gotta get one last thing readjusted here, just in my lineup for this, but that's gonna take me all of about 3 seconds, which it's ready to go. So I know we'll have a few more people working their way in over the next couple of minutes or so. But I say with that, let's get started. If you have any questions or comments, certainly feel free to ask those in the chat section, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can, moving forward and coming up here in just a few minutes. So, looking at that, oops, there we go. This is the one I wanted. Going back over to that satellite loop, here's the close-in version, and we can see the cloud cover, at least in these whites and blues, that has been increasing across western Montana so far this afternoon, and that's what helped to, that's essentially the pre-indicator that this storm is rolling in and then going back out. We can see the main parent trough over here and a little bit of a spin right there. So there's a little storm system getting ready to move. It's actually moving onto the shore there towards the Olympic Peninsula, and then a second low-pressure system is starting to develop back over here further west from it, and that's what's going to help to, again, drive some of that active weather for Sunday as we head into that second push of moisture. Now, as for right now, all is pretty quiet across the region. I'll get us into a slightly better position, but all is quiet across the region. We're talking mostly clear skies down in southwest Montana. We're looking at those temperatures right around 31 to 32 degrees in Dillon and Bozeman. As for Missoula and Kalispell, 32 and 35 across west central and northwestern Montana. Clouds have been increasing through the day, and these are the areas, Kalispell and Missoula, that are most likely to see some of that moisture later on tonight. So here's really what we're tracking. Here are the three big things. For tonight, increasing showers with mountain snow and valley wintry mix of rain and snow primarily, though a little bit of freezing rain can't be ruled out overnight tonight up in northwest Montana. That's going to be our main focus for this weekend, but in general, this active and cooler pattern is going to really expand. So the active pattern expands into the early parts of next week. Then we get some colder air that moves in, and that could set up the potential of some valley snowfall as we get into, say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday timeframe of next week. So let's go into radar right now. We can see this first wave of moisture starting to move into northwest and west central Montana. You can see this kind of southwest to northeast flow with this, and that is going to really just continue to expand overnight. So I'll zoom in a little bit closer here. Starting to see some of this moisture, relatively light, some maybe light rain here on the US 93 corridor. Snow levels right now sitting around 3,500 feet. Those will likely lower just a little bit as those temperatures continue to fall, so maybe down to 3,000 feet. We could see this up here in northwest Montana, where it actually starts off as a little bit of snow. So up here towards Highway 37, US 93 up here towards Eureka, Alney, Stryker, as well as down towards Trout Creek, Thompson Falls, Libby, Noxon, Heron, Troy. where we do see that start off as a little bit of snow. Just as there's a couple of question marks on how much of that cold air is going to get scoured out by this storm, but it's still not expecting much in the way of impact for our valleys. Just know this is the first wave of moisture that's going to be rolling in. As for places like Lookout Pass here on the state line, Marias Pass over here along the divide, this will be an all-snow event for both of those locations throughout. So really not expecting that to give us a surprise by any means when it comes to rainfall. As for areas along and south of Interstate 90, we're pretty dry for the most part. We may see some of this moisture try and creep into areas closer to TV Mountain, right into the Evero Hill area, but still, this is early on in this storm system. So for tonight, we're going to see more of that moisture moving in, especially, again, northwest, west central Montana. Temperatures staying pretty consistent to where they are right now. We're not going to see a big change in those. Kalispell, looking at that low of 31, I might drop that down to 30 degrees, just where we're already at 32. Missoula at 29, Hamilton 29, Polson 32. And then we get into southwest Montana, where we may see a little bit more clearing, not quite as much in the way of cloud cover, helping to blanket the cooling from happening. 20s are going to be common into southwest Montana, 22 Butte, 23 over in Bozeman. Now looking ahead to Valentine's Day, here's that Valentine's Day forecast. We're looking at 49 and 45 with mostly cloudy skies down in southwest Montana. Bozeman again 49, 45 in Butte, 45 in Missoula, 43 in Kalispell. We're going to be looking at rain and snow trying to mix for the morning, but I think as we get just a little bit beyond sunrise, temperatures will be warming enough that we're going to likely be transitioning over to rain pretty quick. Snow levels through the day tomorrow increasing from that 3,000, 3,500 foot mark all the way up to around 5,000 feet as we get into the afternoon and evening. So really for southwest Montana, no issues for, I say no issues, very few issues for your Valentine's Day plans. As for northwest, west central Montana, if you have any outdoor plans, certainly be aware of that potential for some rainfall tomorrow, especially in the valleys, and a little bit of snow up in the mountains. There's, I'll show you here on Future Tracker, we may get a little bit of a break during the afternoon where we aren't seeing quite as much in the way of moisture, but certainly just be aware of that throughout the entirety of the day. And going right into Future Tracker, I'll back this up just a little bit, and here comes that first wave of moisture. Future Tracker's right on it, showing that moisture back over towards Wallace, Idaho, and then you move that into the Trout Creek, Heron, Knoxon, Thompson Falls areas, as well as up towards Lookout Pass. This is only going to expand in coverage as we go throughout the night, and I think our peak, at least for this first wave of moisture across northwest Montana, likely arriving in that 2 to, say, 7 o'clock range. As you can see the blues up here, this is why I think there is going to be the potential for a little bit of snow to start initially, not expecting enough to cause major impacts or anything like that, but there's enough snow up here, as well as that potential for some very isolated pockets of freezing rain in the valleys, where we could see some slick conditions heading into early Saturday morning. So be aware of that, especially for areas along and north of US 2. I think that's where we're most likely to see those kinds of impacts. But again, look out Marias Pass. This is all going to be snow through this period. We may dry out a bit into tomorrow morning. Downslope flow may be helping us on the US 93 corridor from getting too wet. So Kalispell, Polson, Missoula, maybe a few sprinkles, but again, that downslope flow may be evaporating a lot of that moisture based on what this forecast model is showing. Then it gets lifted right back up into the Swan Whitefish Range, the Mission Mountains. That's where we're going to probably see some of our heaviest snowfall is in those zones. Then we go into the afternoon, and notice how the moisture really starts to fall apart. There will still be some of that, but it's we break out of wave number 1. We're dry for the most part into the afternoon, the early afternoon. Later into the afternoon and evening, we start to see that next wave of moisture push in, and you see as we get closer to, say, 5 o'clock, closer to sunset, is when we get that moisture moving back in to the area, and at this point we're talking snow levels around 5,000 feet. So this will all be rain in our valleys at this point, or at least it should be, though I will say this, models are hanging on to a little bit more cold air up here towards Kalispell. I'm a little I'm not going to jump on that saying that we are going to see snow tomorrow evening, but I won't rule it out completely. I think for about 95% of this area west of the divide, this should stay as rain for the valleys below 4,000, 4,500 feet. And we'll see that next wave of moisture moving into late Saturday night, Sunday morning. This could be a little bit heavier. There is the potential we could see a few winter weather advisories get posted for this window, especially for, say, the lower Clark Fork region, for Lookout Pass, the West Glacier region up here for Marias Pass. Those would be the two areas that we may see a winter weather advisory come out for tomorrow night and early Saturday morning. I do want to check one thing now that I'm just thinking about it, just to make sure that something hasn't been posted. I hadn't checked it in a while, and no. So there aren't any advisories right now. We see more of that start to move in to areas down towards the Bitterroot Valley, the Bitterroot and Sapphire Mountains as we get into early Sunday morning, finally getting a little bit more of that moisture further and further to the south. Maybe Butte, we see a few snowflakes in there for early Sunday morning. Then it starts to slowly condense. I won't even say track north, but it condenses across west central Montana, maybe as far north as the southern half of Flathead Lake, getting into the Sealy Swan Valley, where I think we're more likely to see some of that snowfall to linger on in the valleys there, again towards Sealy Lake, Conde, and Swan Lake, before we transition over to more isolated activity. Though this newest run of the forecast model is showing a little bit more activity hanging on right towards the Missoula Valley and parts of Interstate 90. So we'll have to see if this band develops. That's a new development in the most recent run of this. So earlier in the afternoon and evening, this was showing very isolated activity, kind of similar to what we're seeing here at 7 o'clock, though even less coverage. So maybe a little bit more for Sunday evening, and you see kind of three bands. One up here from about, say, Trout Creek, Knox and Heron, over across towards areas towards Kalispell, Whitefish, Columbia Falls. The other band down here closer to Hamilton, across over to Deer Lodge, Garrison, and Helena. And then the third band, which, let me back this up, stretching from the areas between Dillon and Lima across to Ennis, Big Sky, and maybe even as far north as Bozeman, and that continues into early Monday morning before things start to quiet down, but we aren't done by any means. This is just going to be a little bit of a break into the morning and early afternoon, especially for areas along and south of I-90. But you see this big plume of moisture back off to the west. There's going to likely be another plume of moisture that comes in from the south as we head into late Monday night and Tuesday, but there's still a lot of question marks moving that far forward on how everything's going to play out and transpire. So, something we'll be watching. As for snowfall totals, this is looking through Monday morning. Lookout, Lolo, Marias Passes, maybe anywhere from about 2 to 8 inches of accumulation, just depending on where that heaviest batch of activity, where those snow bands that we were looking at set up. But those three passes specifically are the ones that if we are going to see travel impacts, both for, say, Saturday night into Sunday morning and then also Monday morning, those would be the ones to watch out for. Again, about 2 to 8 inches, or even 3 to 8 inches on average, I think is going to be common for those three. Lesser amounts for our other passes, and really for our valleys, we're talking a dusting, maybe upwards to a half an inch at best, as things look right now. So this is just looking through Monday. But like I was saying before, this is not the end of the story. As we head into Tuesday, there will likely be another storm system that moves through. That may linger into Wednesday as well. And then I think we're going to be possibly talking about another one as we go from Wednesday night into Thursday and Friday. That could bring some more snowfall to the region. Now, with the change, or at least I'll say one change with that midweek storm for next week, while we're fighting with snow levels up near pass level, fluctuating between, say, 4,000 and 5,500 feet all the way through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that is when those snow levels start to crash, and depending on how much cold air gets in, that may determine how much snow that we can see in our valleys next week. One area in particular that I've got a close eye on, and we don't really have any forecast, I have one forecast model I can show, but it's northwest Montana. The reason I have my eye on northwest Montana is because there is going to be the potential for a bit of an Arctic cold front to slide in from the backside and up and over the divide. If we get that cold air to come all the way into places like Kalispell and that moisture overrides up on top of it, we could see some heavier snowfall and greater impacts up there for, again, places like Eureka, Whitefish, especially up as we get into West Glacier, Hungry Horse, those areas, just depending on how much cold air gets in. Even Sealy Lake I'll throw into that as well. But in general, colder areas on the way. It's just how cold is that going to be, and does that time well with the moisture that's going to be rolling in. So key takeaway from this graphic, just know snow levels fall as we get into Tuesday and especially Wednesday. And here's what we're looking at from our regional future tracker. This is a slightly lower resolution model, and this is going to kind of give us a sense of what some of those more global models are showing as compared to our local models. Going into Monday, here's that next wave that moves into northwest Montana. This is during the late morning, early afternoon hours, but Missoula, Butte, Bozeman, we are quiet, and you see that high temperature in Bozeman on Monday, 52 degrees, so it's going to be another very mild day. But watch as we get into Tuesday morning early. This is looking, say, 5 o'clock in the morning. This moisture really starts to filter back in, moving from southwest to northeast, and this looks like it could be a pretty widespread precipitation type of event. At this point, we're still talking snow levels that are higher, so we may still be talking about rain for places like Missoula and Bozeman, and maybe even Butte, depending on how high those snow levels are, for Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, as this wave moves through. And you can see that here on our future tracker. You see the blues the greens and the pinks showing up towards Missoula, towards Butte. That's going to be that potential of rain, maybe with a mix of snow. But you look up here to Kalispell, 37 degrees, and it is all blue up here in northwest Montana. That is that potential cold front sagging in from the north and east over the divide. If that happens, we could be talking a brief period of moderate to maybe even some heavy snow up there. Still a lot of question marks. Like I said, nothing is set in stone with this storm system, but that'll be something to watch very, very closely. This is looking Tuesday morning, and again, it could be talking impacts up here for areas north of I-90. As we go into Tuesday afternoon and evening, you see we're still fighting with that rain-snow mix, Missoula down towards Butte and Bozeman. And again, I think the line for that Arctic air is probably going to be something roughly in here. You see how it's 35 Great Falls, 37 in Kalispell, but 42 Missoula, 51 Bozeman. You can kind of sense where that cold air is just sitting in there. That finally does get in on Wednesday, but this particular forecast model is not as aggressive with the moisture. It's showing widespread precipitation, but it's not particularly heavy. See how it's primarily in these whites and light blues? So this model is showing more of a lighter snowfall for Tuesday night into Wednesday, and the same story goes into Thursday and Friday. We're going to be at least seeing the chance for snowfall each and every day, it looks like right now, for next week. But instead of this being, say 60 to 70, 80% likelihoods of precipitation, we may be more talking 30 to 40% of some isolated showers. Up in the mountains, though, we will be talking about some accumulating snowfall. It's just how much of that gets down into the valleys. What kind of impacts are we going to see? All questions that'll get answered over the next couple of days, and we'll have a better idea of it as we get through the weekend. But right now, we just can't say for certain how this is going to play out. But the main takeaway is just be prepared for a more typical winter pattern for next week, and that may even continue throughout the rest of February. So this may be a very beneficial change for our forecast, trying to get some of that snowpack, especially for our mid-level slopes. High-level slopes have still been doing fairly well. Most of our basins are at average or below average, with the state snowpack around 82 to 83%, which is the best percentage per median for the snowpack out of the entire West. So as bad as things have been with our snowpack here in western Montana and just Montana as a whole, we're faring better than pretty much any other state in the West. So this is going to certainly help. any kind of moisture and any kind of precipitation is going to be a big help for that. So we'll take it all that we can. Again, some models are a little bit more aggressive with the snowfall over the next couple of weeks. I'll use the European model, for example. I've been looking at that off and on the last few days into the extended forecast. And with extended forecasts, I only take them with a grain of salt, but it gives a sense of what could be on its way. They've been hinting at some decent mountain snowfall for sure. The GFS model, on the other hand, not as aggressive as the European model, but it's also even far less aggressive down in southwest Montana. So some of the models not really showing a whole lot getting down towards the mountains of Butte and Bozeman as compared to the mountains closer to Kalispell and to Missoula. The European model is more aggressive for the entirety of the state. So it's just going to be an interesting one to see how everything plays out over the next couple of weeks. But more wintry weather is on the way regardless. It's just what kind of level of winter weather are we talking about. So pretty much this is everything that I had for tonight's update. I thought I had one other graphic. I do have one other graphic, and I'll go back to it. But if you have any last-minute questions or comments, feel free to ask those in the chat section. Really, here again are the main takeaways if you're just tuning in. Tonight, increasing showers. This may start off as some rain showers in some snow showers up in the valleys of northwest Montana. That'll change over relatively quickly. Back over to rain, though there is a window where we could see a little bit of freezing rain, creating some slick spots for Saturday morning, for Valentine's Day morning. But by the time we get to about mid-morning, early afternoon, most valleys, we should be talking about rain. At that point, that continues into the overnight period as well. Snow levels increasing from 3,000 upwards to around 5,000, 5,500 feet for this weekend. So some past travel impacts can't be ruled out, especially for Lookout and Marias passes, as well as towards Lolo Pass, where there is the potential we could see some winter weather advisories get posted tomorrow morning for the Saturday night, Sunday morning time frame. And then we get into next week, that active cooler pattern is expected. Still some question marks about how it all plays out right now. If valleys are going to see snowfall and potentially moderate kind of impacts, northwest Montana is where I have my focus because of that potential for some Arctic air sliding in to overlap with this Pacific moisture. I think that's less likely for west central and southwest Montana's valleys, but that can change very quickly, especially with cold air. Until we get to it, you don't know how much that Arctic air is going to slide into and kind of seep its way into the valley. So lots of question marks there, stuff that I'm fairly confident will get ironed out as we go throughout the weekend and especially into early next week. So I will be back to do another one of these YouTube lives likely on Monday next week. And if not Monday, I'll be doing one on Tuesday. And just to kind of give you a heads up of what we can expect moving forward as we are likely to see more of that snowfall. But overall, southwest Montana, we're going to be relatively quiet this weekend, not expecting impacts for Valentine's Day, maybe just a few light sprinkles. Northwest, west central Montana might not be a bad idea if you have outdoor plans. Have a plan B to go indoors for those Valentine's events, whatever you may have planned for your significant other. And if you're just celebrating on your own, I hope it is a wonderful weekend nonetheless. So I think with that, I will start to wrap it up. Have a safe weekend. Have a great rest of the night, great weekend. And if you have any photos or videos of how you're enjoying Valentine's Day, also if you're going to the Winter Pep Rally, certainly feel free to share photos and videos with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in. Same story goes if you have any snowfall in your area, or you happen to see any of that as you're traveling over the passes. We'd love to see what you're seeing as well. So with that, I hope you have a great evening. And tune into our live broadcast coming up here at 10, as well as our live broadcasts for this weekend. I'll see you all as we head into next week. Have a safe one again. With NBC Montana, I'm meteorologist Mitchell Coombs.